Hey, it's Mike here, and today a leaked document exposes the fishing industry's plan to respond to and attack the upcoming documentary Seaspiracy, which really is going to expose a lot of the atrocities in the fishing industry, human, animal, and environmental. The documentary Seaspiracy is going to be released on Netflix on March 24th, very soon, and it is by the same creators as Cowspiracy and What the Health. And I will say there is something very fishy, no offense, about this pre-planned attack on the documentary. Considering it hasn't even come out yet, you could call it a premature attaculation. The leaked document came from the National Fisheries Institute, an organization with a ton of members, which essentially makes up the bulk of the U.S. fishing industry. And we're going to take a little bit of an investigation, look at some of its members and some issues in the supply chain in terms of human rights that might lead them to be a little bit defensive. Anyway, let's just get right into it. So what we're talking about here is a letter, which is really more of an attack plan. It's a letter to the National Fisheries members, just letting them know, here's this upcoming documentary, here's what we're going to do to fight it so it doesn't really damage us. Here it is, it's a member alert about a scary vegan documentary, and at the bottom it's actually labeled, quote, "This is privileged and confidential communications between NFI and its members." So yeah, this is juicy. It turns out that apparently one of the employees of one of the members, couple hundred companies, was like, this is something I need to share. I'm gonna blow the whistle. I'm gonna take that ship known as the National Fisheries Institute and poke a little hole in it so it's got a little bit of a leak. The letter says, quote, "The trailer bills the film as a comprehensive expose on the seafood industry covering everything from overfishing, bycatch, and shark finning to human trafficking." It is not. Oh, it isn't. Have you seen the documentary that has yet to be released? Are you psychic? No, of course you're not. They just assume this based off their interpretation of previous documentaries produced by Kip Anderson and Keegan Kuhn, like Cowspiracy and What the Health, which I've covered on this video channel place. They say, quote, "Being vegan or an environmental champion are life choices, but hijacking a lifestyle while disingenuously targeting an industry that provides billions of healthy meals and employs 1.7 million Americans is an unacceptable and dishonest attack." I don't even understand the hijacking a lifestyle part. They're not hijacking a vegan lifestyle, and fish is definitely not exactly a lifestyle. I don't even understand. But the point is, the animal industry always has to just shove jobs in there because that's the point they love to sell. The same as the fossil fuel industry. Jobs does not equal ethical. But the most important thing here is that they're claiming that it's dishonest, and the only thing that exists right now out there is the trailer. And of course, it's a short montage of clips, not really making any official claims. You don't know everything that's in the documentary from seeing it. You simply cannot judge the honesty of a film that has yet to be released, which leads me to believe that they are simply BSing out of their saltwater, now urine-soaked panties. Also, the major points, if you are to extract them from the trailer, are verifiable. They are true in terms of the environmental claims. They touch on how the ocean is a major part of climate change, verified by how, say, according to NOAA, 31% of our emissions are absorbed by the ocean. In addition, they highlight some illegal activity on the oceans, which we all know exists. I've covered it in the past in terms of like slavery on Thai fish boats, etc. But why not? Let's just hit some research. This Science Advances study is literally titled "Seeing Slavery in the Seafood Supply Chain." And they say, quote, "In 2016, widespread forced labor in seafood work was reported in 47 countries, with incidents reported in additional countries including New Zealand, Ireland, the United States, and Taiwan." So these claims of dishonesty really have no merit, and it really is something to claim that a movie is dishonest without seeing it. Itself seems kind of dishonest. I would say that they're maybe projecting a little bit here. Anyway, let's move on back to the letter, and it really highlights their game plan for responding to Seaspiracy, which I think is really important to note because it exposes, once again for sure, that the animal product industry is thinking about vegan content and how they're going to squash it in advance. In this case, you could call it a Seaspiracy. They say they've alerted the Coalition of Global Seafood Communicators. So clearly they have an armada of members preparing messaging and are going to work with an organization that previously worked to respond to Cowspiracy, which I think is funny. So they've got a little bit of a well-oiled machine going on here now. They also say they're going to highlight Netflix's lack of oversight when it comes to presentation of facts, which is a unique angle. They're actually going to go after Netflix itself. Obviously, it's not going to take the documentary down. They also plan to arm the people on the ground in the seafood sector with talking points, not just any talking points, but friendly talking points about how horrible vegans are. I'm kidding. I don't know what those talking points are yet, but you know I'm going to end up having to make a video responding to them, and they're probably going to be largely mythical. So we have to ask, why is the NFI, that National Fisheries Institute, so defensive about this? The first and most obvious one, which we're probably all thinking, is that they're afraid it could cut into their profits. If you can convince a large portion of the US population that the fishing industry is just not a good thing to support, then obviously their sales are going to go down. And it's important to note that the NFI represents over 200 members, people that obviously pay them to be an organization, and that is approximately around 75% of the US seafood industry. So this is the seafood industry. But the second hunch of mine, I want to call it a hunch because it is speculative, and that is why the trailer might have hit such a chord with the people of NFI, and that has to do with their supply chain. As Supply Chain Dive mentions, an estimated 11% of the global slavery population is in the fishing industry. If I were them, I would be afraid that there was some slavery or forced labor in my supply chain. Why? Because it has happened before. Multiple times. Like when an Associated Press investigator came across a fishing ship unloading on an island in Indonesia where the crew members just started shouting for help because they were legit slaves.
And explaining that they were trapped and that they were being beaten and that they were enslaved. She went onto the island and there were men in a cage.
And from their descriptions, they were slaves.
By the definition of modern-day slavery, absolutely.
They traced that supply chain, followed where that ship was unloaded into what processing plants, tracked custom records, and found that it was making it to stores such as Walmart in the US. And as you can see on their About page, Walmart is an NFI member. Or in 2015, when they found that there was slavery in the shrimp peeling in the shrimp supply chain of companies that sell directly to Whole Foods, which is another NFI member, as well as Walmart again. It's always Walmart. Again, the Associated Press tracked those custom records, and well, Whole Foods was like, no, we don't sell that exact type of shrimp, so we had nothing to do with this, and then they continued to purchase from that same Thai shrimp company. It's also worth looking at the tuna supply chain, because 60% of tuna in the world comes from the Pacific Ocean, which is on the exact opposite side of the world as the US, which can make it remote, complex, and opaque, as this article highlighted in the quote by Amy Sinclair of UK-based Business and Human Rights Resource Center. Quote, modern slavery is endemic in the fishing industry, where the tuna supply chain is, again, remote, complex, and opaque. Another NFI member, which appears to have a stained record, is Bumblebee Foods, which in 2020 was acquired by the tuna mega giant Fangchun Formosa, that's how you say it, which was already supplying the vast majority of their tuna in 2019 before they were acquired. This 2020 Greenpeace report on 2019 fishing activities of Fangchun Formosa highlights that there appears to be some forced labor in the supply chain, and they bring the receipts. So if this Greenpeace report is accurate, this very nice sounding Bumblebee Foods was directly buying slave labor tuna. At best, they were just getting their tuna mostly from a company that also used slave labor, and their particular tuna wasn't slave labor. Either way, not looking so good. Finally, I just have to mention that the National Fisheries Institute has these weird little micro articles attacking some environmental organizations like Greenpeace and the Sierra Club, which just come off as really petty and catty. No offense to cats. While Greenpeace demands institutional change, it apparently has a tough time leading by example. It's ridiculous, and it at least goes to show that they would rather fight these environmental organizations than work with them. Anyway, moving on. I'm just saying all this to say that if I was a press person that worked for NFI, I would absolutely be triggered by Seaspiracy, knowing that in the past and possibly right now, there's forced labor and human trafficking in the supply chain of the members that literally fund your organization. And when certain companies like Walmart repeatedly continue to support companies with horrible human rights atrocities in their supply chain, you just let them continue to be members anyway. Plant-Based News, however, did approach the National Fisheries Institute for a comment, and they gave a solid paragraph back. You can pause and read the whole comment, but it's clear that they really want to just push back with how healthy fish is. Fish is so healthy. In fact, if they had it their way, they'd probably have a mid-roll ad during Seaspiracy that just highlights the NFI and how healthy fish is. Oh, they recorded one and somebody leaked that too?
Ignore everything you just heard. Don't mind that wild-caught Atlantic fish has microplastics because fish have omegas. But ignore how you can get the exact same omega-3s directly from the algae that fish eat, without any heavy metals or plastic. NFI, there's probably slavery in the supply chain. Oops.
Look, that's the thing with leaked documents and videos. You never know if the source is fully legit, so you can make a judgment on that one for yourself. But to a huge important point here I haven't really mentioned yet, and that is fish. Fish are animals that are sentient, and the fishing industry is highly destructive. It is the leading cause of death for turtles, which are also not fish, and whales, which are also not fish. But the idea is the impact is so huge, and I'm sure Seaspiracy is going to do a great job of covering this. Fish are sentient, and that is worth remembering. Anyway, special thanks to Plant-Based News and the Whistleblower for making this information available. And it is just good to see the inner workings of the animal industry, how they operate, how the press operates, how they are trying to change opinion, and what they're threatened by as well. Clearly, they find this threatening. All right, feel free to like the video, share the video, subscribe, and do all the good notification stuff so you don't miss my videos, and check out Seaspiracy on Netflix on March 24th and beyond. All right, thanks for watching.